Do I have any brave people? All these bees are bugging me. I say, you idiot, that's bullets passing by your ear. I want to thank the military in uniform that showed up. These are people that protect us. I want to thank you for your service and your continued service. Good morning. Yeah, my name is Melvin Morris, Sergeant First Class, United States Army, retired Green Beret. I won't say former because this lady Marine Corps, once a Green Beret, always a Green Beret. Before I say anything, I want to thank the military in uniform that showed up. These are people that protect us. I want to thank you for your service, your continued service, and what you're doing. I'll say again, my name is Melvin Morris, and I retired as Sergeant First Class E7. I'm originally from Okmulgee, Oklahoma. My military career started off in the National Guard. I dropped out of high school, nothing to do, no work. And my brother and I thought about it and said, well, they'll recruit minorities for the National Guard. Let's join. And I joined the National Guard. I had to get my mother to sign off because I was 17 years old. Stayed in the National Guard for a year. I went to basic and advanced infantry training in Fort Jackson, South Carolina. After a year in the Guard, I say I kind of like the military. So I volunteered to go active Army. So I went to active Army in August of 1960. Went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Went to artillery training. Not just had finished infantry training, now I'm doing artillery training. I became a 13 Bravo. While doing artillery training, they say, well, you can volunteer to go airborne, but you got to pass the physical fitness test. And I had an uncle that was airborne during World War II. So I said, I'm going to try that. So I volunteered to go to airborne school, passed the physical, was assigned to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I was assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division. So I went to airborne school in January of 1961. I graduated airborne school, and I heard about these guys on Smoke Bomb Hill, the old World War II barracks. And they called themselves Snake Eaters and Sneaky Pete. I said, that sounds interesting, intriguing. I'm gonna volunteer for it. The guys in the barracks say, look, you're 18 years old, you're private first class, no way they'll ever take you. I said, okay, we'll see. I put my paperwork in, and I was accepted to go to the Green Berets. I got assigned to the Green Beret in March of 1961 and started training. So it took me 2 years to qualify as a Green Beret. Very hard course. But during that time, you trained with the team. You didn't go to what they call a training group. So with the team, I had OJT for 2 years, on-the-job training. And at the end, you got to pass your test. So I passed everything, and I was a Green Beret. And that was a proud moment. But during that time, they had missions that were going overseas, and they were called White Star Mobile Training Teams. And I just couldn't get onto one. I wanted to go. But instead, I was always assigned to KP and boiler duty. That's firing the boilers up. And I was doing extra duty, and I'm not doing hardcore duty, Army duty, what I call it. So I wasn't able to go on one of those missions. I was assigned to a team in 1964. That team I was signed to was Captain Roger Donald, the first Medal Honor recipient. He was my team commander. So I was due to go to Vietnam on that team in 1964. I injured myself driving a tent peg in the ground and hit myself in the knee. And the captain said, "Oh, you just didn't want to go to Vietnam." But that wasn't an excuse. I couldn't go because I was on a P3 profile. I wasn't able to do regular duties, so they had to leave me. When that team got to Vietnam, both my team members were killed in the first action, both my buddies, the team sergeant and the team medic. Captain Roger Donald received the Congressional Medal of Honor. So I was angry. I said, my buddies are gone. I couldn't go. I've got to go. So I volunteered. I wasn't accepted, couldn't go. But after the incident with my knee, I was reassigned to the 82nd Airborne Division. I got to the 82nd Airborne Division in April 1965. 2 weeks later, I was in the Dominican Republic. They had a political uprising, and we were sent there to quell the uprising. I stayed there for 18 months. There was minimal combat in the Dominican Republic, which only lasted about 2 weeks. So I come back from the Dominican Republic, and I volunteered to go back to Green Beret. I say, okay, you come back. Went back to the Green Beret. I volunteered to go to Vietnam again. No results. A year later, I volunteer again. And finally they say, okay, we're gonna let you go to Vietnam. And believe it or not, I was happy about that. Most people were ducking Vietnam, and I wanted to go. And I wasn't afraid. So they said, okay, we're gonna let you go to Vietnam. I went to Vietnam, and I was assigned to what they call a mobile strike force, a Green Beret unit that goes out, searches for the enemy, and destroys them. Now, I know some of you may have seen a movie I don't like. That was John Wayne and the Green Berets. I don't think it was a good cut. It was a good movie. But anyway, I was assigned to that unit. And that was one of the hardest units you can be involved with, because their mission is to go and make contact with the enemy. They didn't wait till the enemy come to them. They went and found the enemy. And that's what we did. So I was in constant combat with that unit. Fast forward about 9 months later, we was getting ready for a major operation. And I had been in a lot of combat during that time, but nothing major as that was coming up, a big operation. Actually, it was a campaign. And this campaign was trying to stop the flow of enemy and materials and weapons across the Cambodian border. And we were blocking action because they were preparing to attack our camps. And so I knew it was going to be a very dangerous mission. And I knew combat was imminent. So while being assigned to the Special Forces, I was a Staff Sergeant E6. And in the A-Team, I was the team engineer, but I was assigned as a company advisor. And I had Cambodian troops. I was their leader. My counterpart was a young Cambodian, less than 20 years old, had been in combat 5 years already. But I was the main one in charge. And normally I didn't have a problem with my Cambodian troops. They respected me, I respected them. And so they did what I told them to do. So we're getting ready to go on this operation. And the night before the operation, I watched the helicopter gunships scraping the enemy. I watched that action all night long. And I told myself, this is going to be a bad day. That's too much activity because the helicopters worked all night long. So that morning we moved out. We moved out in the trucks, we parked, started across the rice paddies. Moving across the rice paddies, nothing happened. Now this combat action involves 3 battalions. 3 battalions, that's a lot. So we were going up against an enemy regiment, and I knew it was going to be bad. I was in the 3rd Battalion, the 4th Company. So I was bringing up the rear. I took my unit, I said, you know what? Use all you learned in the military. Use your infantry training. I said, I reorganized my company right away. I took all my heavy weapons and I put them into 1 platoon. I've got everything reorganized. I've moved everybody to different places. Reason why I did this, after we crossed the rice paddy, I started seeing safety pins on the ground. Safety pins, safety pins, safety pins. And they weren't rusted. So that means that they were recent. We got to the village, no one's in the village. That's another warning sign. So I had to really get everybody prepared for this big fight. I knew it was coming. On my way in, I saw 3 NVA. And actually, they were taunting me. And I said, you know, that's a sucker trip. They're trying to bait me in. If I move my unit towards them, we're going to get ambushed. I didn't do it. And the reason why I didn't do it, because I had a call on the radio. I don't know where the other unit's at. They're quite a distance from me. But I get a call. And the call is my captain on the radio. He said, I've been wounded several times. My team sergeant is killed. My intel sergeant kicked a landmine. I didn't hear a gunshot. That's how far back I am. I didn't know what was going on. I said, okay, sir, I'm gonna move the troops up. We'll come to your aid. But you need to get medevaced out. He said, no, I'm not going. I got a bottle of Jack Daniels in my rucksack. I drank me some Jack Daniels and I'm staying. And I said, no, you're not. You're getting out of here. So I'll talk to you when we get back because you've been holding out on us. But he got medevaced out. Yeah, he got a bottle of whiskey in his rucksack. Can you believe that? And didn't tell nobody. So he gets medevaced out. And I get up the point from where the team sergeant body's at. And I don't know what we call it, luck. I didn't know exactly where his body was at, but I moved it up to the exact location. I got my troops set up, I got the company set up, I moved all the heavy weapons up front, and I moved in to find his body. I found his body, and immediately I checked him out, turned him over, checked his vitals. He was dead, of course. But I knew that when I got to him. So I was raised a Catholic. So what I did, I immediately gave him last rites. And I'm not thinking about getting shot. Now, the shooting was still going on. It hadn't stopped. But my mind is just in many places at that time. So I checked him out. He was killed. We got to get his body out. So I had 2 young Cambodians with me. Cambodians are small people, average. But you know, 2 can get him out because Team Sergeant was big. He was big as a chief I met this morning. So they grabbed hold to him, they tried to get him out. Both of them got shot right away. So I had to bring them back to the line and get some more volunteers. This time I got 3. We came back in to get the body. Bullets are flying everywhere. Shooting has never stopped. Got his body out, dragging his body out. map case with Team Sergeant always keeps all the goodies, all this important information in a map case. Now, the map case contains vital information. We had our radio codes, troop strength, troop movement, you name it. It's in that map case. So when we were dragging his body out, if that's the only way they could get him out, I had to go back. Now, make a decision. You got to go back and get that map case. You can't let them have it. So I'm trying to figure out what to do. I missed one point while I was talking. I had an assistant. He was a young E4, and he had been in country only like maybe less than a month. He was green, as we call it. I didn't want him to get hurt because I knew he was green. When he told me, he said, "Top, all these bees are bugging me." I said, "You idiot, that's bullets passing by your ear." That's how green he was. So I said, "I'll tell you what I want you to do. I want you to stay back. You take control of the troops and let me handle this." He did what I said. You had no problem. So we lined up the troops, lined up all them section machine guns. I said, "Get all the ammunition that you can find." And they started laying down a base of fire. And I say, "Fire until you don't have nothing left." They fired, they fired, they fired. And while they were doing that, I thought about it. I got to go in here. So I'm gonna go in with hand grenades. So I asked to bring all the hand grenades forward, emptied out the Claymore bags, filled them with hand grenades, and I strapped 2 bags on me. I said, "When you cease fire, I'm going in." So when I called for ceasefire, I went in. And I started throwing hand grenades from one bunker to the next bunker. If I thought it was a bunker, I'd throw a hand grenade. If I thought it was a trench, I'd throw a hand grenade. I had about 20. And I threw all the hand grenades. I had one left. But meantime, throwing the hand grenades gave us enough break to get to the map case. My interpreter was with me. He picked up the map case. NVA jumped up in front of me, shot me in the chest. I went down, the NVA went down. My interpreter, when I got shot, he was out of there, which I don't blame him. I had told my young assistant, if I get shot while trying to get that map case, you pull the troops out. You take off. You leave me. So I'm there by myself now. So I said, you got to get some cover. You might have a sucking chest wound. So I moved up behind a palm tree and I tried to check my back to see if the bullet had come through. And it didn't come through all the way. So I said, okay, I can survive this. So I knew bubbles were coming out of the front. And I said, you got air coming out of your chest. You got to plug that. So I plugged my chest as best as I could. While I'm doing this, they're still trying to shoot me. They're trying to take down the tree. I'm behind the palm tree, remember. While behind the palm tree, I got shot in the arm. I didn't even feel it. I didn't even know it. I didn't know I was shot in the arm. Knew I was shot in the chest. Now I'm shot in the arm. I saw one of the enemy, sort of like in a trench. I took my last hand grenade and I threw it. When I threw the hand grenade, I got shot again, this time in my left hand. You know, and training is always good, but they tell you to do this. By instinct, I done that and threw the hand grenade. Caused me to get shot. I should have done this. But you know, that's training. But anyway, I'm shot 3 times. And I had told my young assistant to move out, don't stop, get the troops to safety. And remember now, this is an E4. This got to have handle remnants of a battalion. One E4. He did well. So he moved out, and I'm in there, I got to get out. He thinks I'm down for good, but I'm still good. I can move around. I called for fire support. The Air Force come in, they say, well, with two fast moves, they say, well, we can help you out. One's gonna come in high, one's gonna come in low. They made the first pass, and they told me, we'll see you. Because what happened is they took so much flak from across the border, they say, they just couldn't do it. And they didn't have guns. They say, if we drop a heavy weapon, a 750-pound bomb, you're danger close, it's gonna take you out. So they pulled off of the mission. So I'm stuck. I used to be mad at the Air Force for that for a long time. But anyway, I didn't know what to do. So I got a call from the Navy. Navy Seabees were in the area, the Loach helicopter. And they wobbled in. They said, we don't have no heavy weapons, not on the Loach. But we got small arms and we got some satchel explosives. I say, if you drop those satchels, that'll give me enough break to get out of here. That'll give me a big enough lull where I can run for safety. So they come in, they drop the satchels. I was able to get my car 15 and I started firing. I fired up every round I had. Okay, at that point, I have nothing. No ammunition, no hand grenades. And I'm wounded 3 times. I've got to get out of here. So I told myself, run as fast as you can. And I didn't know, how far I was gonna have to run to catch the unit. So I said, okay, take off, dodge, zigzag, do whatever you gotta do to try not to get shot and get out of there. So I run I figured about a quarter of a mile. But your adrenaline is pumping, your sixth sense is kicking in. I probably ran a mile. But I'm running off of all my reserves. I caught up with them, got a medevac out. And everything was okay. I got the team sergeant bodies back to the C team. Everybody was medevaced out, and I stayed with his body until they told me it was time to go. Because I'm not thinking, I know I'm suffering from shock at that point, and I'm not thinking clearly. I wouldn't even let nobody, people that get around, they want to come see the body, check it out. And I said, nope, it belongs to me, because I'm out of my head. Out of my head. Now, I didn't want to get my wounds treated or nothing. My wife don't know about that, so she'll get on me later. So I went over and I had me a shot of that Jack Daniels, and I felt a little better. And finally said, well, you got to go. So I got on the helicopter, medevaced out to the medevac hospital. Now, I'm still not feeling nothing. But after I come out of surgery, I'm laying in the hospital bed, the shock hit me hard. It finally dawned on me that whatever I had been through, I cried like a baby. And I cried for 2 weeks because, I went numb during the action, but after the action, I came back to earth. And I don't care what anybody say, combat is traumatic. And that's why I respect every man, woman that's been in combat. It's not a joke. It's very serious business. But I cried for a while and I got over that. I stayed in the hospital from September and outpatient until January. But while there, I volunteered to go back to Vietnam. And I didn't know I was gonna get decorated for anything. My wife got a little upset that I'm going back to Vietnam. So April 1970, they had a parade at Fort Bragg to honor me with the nation's second highest decoration, which is the Distinguished Service Cross. But when they awarded me the Distinguished Service Cross, I got orders for Vietnam at the same time. So I'm on my way back. They only had one medal on base. They said, okay, you have to medal for a day, we need it back. So I turned the Distinguished Service Cross in, and this is no joke. I got it 20 years later. 20 years later. But anyway, I went back to Vietnam, and I went back to Special Ops. And I worked Special Ops for that last year, and which I thought was scarier than what I had been through. So I said I was lucky. So I came on back to Fort Bragg. Okay, after I got out of the Army, I never thought about the Medal of Honor or anything. You know, I'm just going on about my business, take care of family, go to work. And 2013, I'm going that far, all the way forward. Now, I never talked about the Medal of Honor, period. I didn't even know a Medal of Honor recipient. But I stand corrected, I did know one. His name was Lawrence Joe, and he got the Medal of Honor in 1966. And I knew that he had drank himself to death when he received that Medal of Honor. That's a lot of weight to carry. A lot of people don't realize that, but this precious medal carries a lot of weight. Your actions and you are always observed. And, you know, it's kind of hard sometimes. In other words, you got to be on your P's and Q's, always. But anyway, I didn't think nothing about receiving the Medal of Honor. So I got a call, my wife got a call, May of 2013. Colonel Davis from G1 Pentagon talked to her, say, well, there's a high government official that needs to speak to your husband, and we need him by the phone the next day, 12:30. And I told her, I said, what? I said, you know what? The men in black, they want me. I done did something wrong. And she said, no, if they wanted you, they would be at the door right now. I said, no, ain't no way. Nobody wants me at no Pentagon. I don't have no government business. I don't have nothing to do with them. She couldn't convince me of that. And I just knew that when I pick up the phone the next day, someone's gonna tell me, you report to Washington, D.C. We need to talk to you. And that's the men in black. So I'm nervous, I'm waiting by the phone. Colonel Davis got on the phone, he said, there's high government officials standing by to speak to you. I have no clue for who it is. It's one of those moments where you need to go to the bathroom, you know. So I'm worried to death. So get on the phone, he said, this is President Obama. And I do his voice, you know, you can tell his voice. And I went down like that, right? About to hit the floor. He said, look, I want to apologize to you for not receiving the Congressional Medal of Honor in 1969. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to be awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor, but you have to do me a favor. Not though, a favor. You got to keep this confidential until you get official notification. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hung the phone up. I told my wife, I said, you know something? Somebody is pranking me. I say, give me that phone number, I'm gonna call him back. Got a bunch of zeros. I said, well, I'll figure it out. I'll get to the Pentagon. I figured it out and I got Colonel Davis. Now, you don't piss off a colonel. He chewed me up and he chewed me down. He chewed me out good. He said, listen, if I ever tell you something official, it's official. Don't you call up here no more. I said, yes, sir. Because I got myself in trouble, big time. So I'm waiting. I waited for, 10 months? 10 months. I didn't go to the store. I didn't cut the grass. I didn't do nothing. I sat on the patio and drank long necks for 10 months. And they finally notified me that I was going to receive the Medal of Honor and report to the White House. Now, I started rounding up people, so I talked to my young assistant that had moved the troops out. I couldn't take him to the Pentagon because after he got out of Vietnam without a scratch, he was signed to the 3rd Special Forces in Panama, the 8th, and he went halo. And he broke his back on the halo jump and paralyzed for life. Even though he didn't get a wound in Vietnam, you just still, things got to him. Now, I pick him up every year, though. Every year, I pick him up. We get together. I found my team captain. I said, Captain, I say the word out is that I didn't receive the Congressional Medal of Honor due to racial prejudice. He said, no, you know it don't go that way. Well, let me back up. I was being interviewed by PBR, Public Radio. And the guy was interviewing me, and I had an open mic. And we were talking, and I told him about what they said had happened. Okay, that broadcast went on public radio. My captain happened to hear it. I guess he's a public radio fan. And I ain't heard from him in 40 years. And my phone rang. And he all been out of shape. Oh, you know that wasn't where it was, Mo. You know the way it was. He said, you know how the system went. If you were African American in the Green Beret, you got the Medal of Honor if it was posthumously. You didn't get it standing up. And he was honest about it. But I never knew that. See, during the time that they was going to put me in for a decoration, he said, we wanted to put you in for the Silver Star only. And the colonel walked in and said, no, it's got to be higher than that. It has to be at least a Distinguished Service Cross. And that was the end of the story. And I went on and on without knowing anything else after that. So I said, okay, you got to go to the White House with me. You were my captain during that time. He said, okay, we'll go. Told the Pentagon who I wanted to take, my family, him. I had about 40 people, but said there was too many. So anyway, we get to the White House and get awarded the Medal of Honor. And sitting there talking to President Obama when he awarded the Medal of Honor, he said, you know what? And you know the media's always got something going on and listening. He said, you're the original badass. And the media heard it. And it immediately went viral. I don't know if you saw it or not, but that's not me. That's not me. But that's how I got the Medal of Honor. But I never talked about anything. I didn't know I was going to receive the Congressional Medal of Honor. And since I received it, I told myself, you got a lot of work to do. You can receive this medal and do nothing, or you can get off of your butt and go to work. Now, I haven't quit running since I hit the ground, and that's 2014. I travel all year, every year. I don't get tired and I don't give up because I feel like it's important that I get out and talk to people. But one other point that was important to me, I had wrote a letter before I received the Medal of Honor. Actually, I had wrote two to the Department of Defense and to the Pentagon. The one I wrote is I wanted to get out and speak to students. I don't have the Medal of Honor, but I want to go out and speak to students, and I needed the military's permission. The other letter I wrote is that I was upset about the military not taking care of the people that work for us, as like the Kurds, my Cambodians, because they were getting killed like flies. If you work for America, you got killed. You got assassinated. And I say we shouldn't turn our back on the people that were loyal to us. And this is before the issue of the Kurds. And we did leave our friends behind, and I was kind of upset about that. But so here I am, standing speaking to you, and it makes it kind of tough when you sit and speak, and you're looking at all the green in the audience. When you're talking to active reserve National Guard, it makes it a little tougher. But you know, it makes me feel better that I have some military in the audience. And I want to thank you. Okay, and I want to thank you for inviting me up here. Now, I don't ever walk off the stage until I ask one thing. Ask me some questions. Catch me in a lie, catch me in something, but ask me some questions. I'll be glad to answer any and everything. Do I have any brave people? Yes, sir.
It's an honor just to be in the same room as you, sir. My question is simple. Do you have a desire to go back to Vietnam? And if you have, could you tell us about your experience going back to that part of the world that was such a significant part of your life?
People ask me that many times. I haven't had a desire. After that last trip in Vietnam, when I worked special ops, I was telling him, I think, I was through. I had enough. That last trip in Vietnam, I got decorated on, but I was in a lot of firefights then. And I just hadn't had the guts or the courage to go back because do I miss it? No. Do I want to go back? I don't think so. But for those that want to go back and they need their closure, I recommend that they do. It's just I don't want to go back. I lost my neighbor in Dominican Republic when we were down there in that little firefight we had. I hadn't had a desire to go back there either, and I stayed there 18 months. I never talked about Vietnam until recently. You know, I just kept it inside, but I don't want to go back. Yes, sir. Oh, thought you were waving at me. Any other questions? Make my day easy. Oh. Okay. Oh, I got one.
Thank you so much for sharing about the 2 weeks that you were in the hospital and you cried. And I am thinking, I'm just guessing that even after that 2 weeks, there were still things that you noticed that you needed to do to get to the beautifully balanced state that you seem to be at now, but just to get through that recovery. Would you speak about that a little, please?
But she had me about 2 weeks in the hospital, but let me tell you, this to me is a horror story. Well, I was in the hospital in Yokohama, Japan, right? And it was at the height of the war. We didn't have enough doctors. We didn't have enough nurses. And when we were in the hospital, we used to look out. If the guys would come in to the hepatitis ward, we knew they were coming back out feet first. The guys that came in were going to the burn ward, we would look for them to come back feet first. We knew. We knew your chances of survival. And we knew downstairs that the ones that had been really violent explosion or whatever, we knew what their chances were. At the ward I was on, I never saw a doctor. I never saw a nurse. I broke open the wall locker. I got some wire cutters. I cut my stitches out of my chest, took the stitches out of my arm. I didn't bother my finger. There were guys that had lost limbs on that ward. They didn't have nobody to talk to. So I talked to them. And I think the hospital was ready to get rid of me because I was a rogue. And they were upset because I had took all the wire. I was stitched up with wire. And I got this stuff out of me. But it wasn't a good trip. So when I got back to Fort Bragg, they said, well, you got to stay in the hospital. I said, not today, not tomorrow, not never. And I didn't, not 1 minute. But the hospital, but you can understand, we just didn't have the people in. And we were taking couches, every day in Vietnam, every day. So, we have to live with that. Okay.
Were you involved in the Tet offensive at all?
No, I wasn't there at Tet. I came there post-Tet. Tet was over with when I got there. And what we had to do, we were doing a mop-up action. There were a lot of enemy that came into Vietnam, and we had to get them out. And that's why in '69 was a bad year. A lot of combat action in '69 and '70. But they were there and they had to go. But they were still coming. When I went to work with Special Ops, I knew that they was going to take Vietnam. But that's here nor there. The men in black will be looking for them in a minute. Okay.
I have some things to present you from DMAC, and then we'll all clap and stand up and freak out and want to get a picture with you. But I have several things that I'm giving in, and none of them do I have the permission to give, like from on high, except it's coming from me, right?
Yes, sir.
So first of all, as some of you in the military know, we like to give coins. And this coin is from the organization Backpacks for Life that we're working with to help with the homeless population. So first of all, sir, thank you for all that you've done. And then I was thinking myself, what could I give you to remind you of Iowa and stopping by? And so I had the great opportunity myself to serve in the Iowa National Guard with the Red Bull over there, and then also jump off of the Red Bull and play with the 103rd ESC, or the Cactus Patch. And so I thought it'd be best to give you my combat patches, and we can share with, because I always like to share them. So this is the Red Bull patch, and then this is the Reserve patch. We have great history here. The 103rd, both of these, it's funny that they're patches from Iowa.
Yeah.
Because when I had them both on my sleeves and I'd be in the airport, people would say, "You from Arizona?"
Yeah.
But as you know, the history, when they moved for World War I, both units went down to New Mexico to move, and they saw amazing things when they were there that they had never seen before, like cactuses and skulls of dead animals, right? And so that became our patches. So I'd like to present you with the patch that combat patch that I earned in Afghanistan, and the combat patch that I earned in Iraq in 2015. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you.
And then the one last thing, this is a trophy that you give to winners who win our race, our 5K race. And I've already given you enough, but I don't think people realize what the spouses of military members go through, and that they never get to receive those honors, but they've helped carry that rucksack of yours, that emotional rucksack. And so I'd like to present your wife, Mary.
Before you do that, I got one thing to say. I don't want to get chewed out. She always tell me I forget. But I met my wife at the USO in 1961. We got married in '62, and we're still together. 15 years.
Thank you.
Okay. Good.